Hey guys, Xaryu here, and today I want to look at the August 1st hotfixes with you guys because there are some pretty significant changes, and I want to try to keep you guys as up to date as possible. So this is on MMO Champ. You can also look at Wowhead for upcoming PvP hotfixes for 8-8/1. The first thing that I want to talk about here is disc, ret, and balance are still looking at getting tuned that weren't in these hotfixes themselves, which I like how they did that. They're like, hey, look, these are some hotfixes we want you guys to test, but we're going to continue working on other adjustments, such as the damage and healing output of specs like disc, ret, and balance. Because when I first look at these, and I was like, there's no disc changes, and I didn't even specifically think of ret and boomkin, although those are probably needed as well. I was like, wow. There's no disc changes. That's crazy, right? Because I uploaded the Smite build that I was talking about with Schism about a week ago now, and that build is still doing incredibly well, and I was definitely expecting nerfs onto it, but it looks like we are going to get some nerfs there in the future. But kind of scrolling down to the actual changes here as we go through them. Racial abilities, Light Judgment, Light's Reckoning. This is the new racial from the Lightforged Draenei. Is 50% less damage. When I initially got this, I was like, oh, 50% less damage, nice, but it says it was a 60% reduction in 735, which means it's actually a 10% buff, which is very interesting, because to me, this seems like it was hitting very hard. So I'll have to keep an eye on this, see how it continues to get tuned, but it seems to be doing a lot of damage, a lot of burst, specifically when it's a Lightforged Draenei Ret Paladin and they pop that with wings, you just kind of die. But we'll have to see on where that goes in the future. Now with Death Knights, Unholy Strength increased by 10% was 15, that's a nerf. Pillar of Frost by 10% was 15, that's another nerf. So DK's getting nerfed here on their Strength, their Pillar of Frost, and for Unholy. So DK's were doing just so much damage. So Wandering Plague reduced damage by 50%. Necrotic Strikes, Necrotic Wound reduced by 33%. Virulent Plague, 25% less damage when against enemy players. And then with the Explosion, 25% when engaged with enemy players as well. So a lot of Unholy nerfs here. I was actually kind of expecting this. Unholy damage just seemed like not even just burst, but just damage, like consistent pressure from Unholy seemed incredibly high. So they're actually going to lower that just a little bit. And before I go any further, guys, these are all going to be changed, I'm sure, again and again and again. So I wouldn't get too sad on like, wow, why did this get nerfed and this didn't get buffed? Or, you know, why did this get buffed and this didn't get nerfed? I would just relax. Okay, it's going to change all again. This is just the first set of hotfixes. There's going to be another one. There's probably going to be multiple more before the expansion even comes out, okay? So we're taking this one step at a time, and I'm sure Blizzard is too. And then as these changes go through, we'll be like, okay, that was actually nerfed too much, or, you know, this actually needs a buff, or whatever. So hang in there. It's going to be okay if the class that you're playing is not quite up to par yet, all right? Druid Restoration. So Rested Druids, in my mind, were the most insane HPS class ever. So Focus Growth reduces the mana cost of Life Bloom by 40 instead of 60. They also never go out of mana, so this is a slight mana nerf to Rested Druids. I like it. That's good. Focus Growth increases the healing of Life Bloom by 30 was 50. So they have a huge Focused Growth nerfs. I think this is a good change. Reduces the healing and mana cost. Hopefully Druids will eventually go out of mana. It probably still won't, but if you haven't played this patch, Druids never, ever, ever go out of mana. So I like this change. BM Hunters, you guys know, if you guys watch this channel, you know I'm very passionate about not liking BM Hunters very much, okay? Dire Beast, Hawk damage reduced by 40%. I like it. Good job, Blizzard. That's what I'm talking about. The BM Hunter nerfs. That's what I like to see. Marksmanship Hunter. I don't mind Marks as much right now, but the burst from aimed shot was very high, so let's see what's in store for them. Double tap effects are reduced by 50% when engaged in combat with other players, so a nice nerf to double tap there. 50% nerf in fact. Careful aim increases aim shot by 33% when engaged in combat with enemy players was 50. So they're basically nerfing the aim shot thing that I was just talking about, which is great, I think. However, they might need buffs now that these nerfs are in place. Aim shot deals an additional 25% damage to targets you have not damaged yet was 50. So basically, I think what you would do is you would stack all of these things, careful aim, aim shot, maybe double tap, and basically just one-shot people with your aim shots. Now that might not be quite as possible, so I'm happy about that. Streamline increases duration of rapid fire by 2. when engaged in combat with enemy players was 3. So another slight nerf there to Streamline. So Marksman got nerfed all around. I hope it's not too much, because I actually enjoy when Marksmanship is the best hunter spec, or at least when Marks or Survival is. I would hate to see this make it so no one plays Marksman and then they just play BM instead or something like that. So we'll have to wait and see if this was too much or if that was just enough to kind of remove their one shot but still have nice consistent pressure. Windwalker Monks. Fist of Fury now deals full damage when engaged in combat with enemy players, was a 20% reduction. So this is a great change. I was talking to, maybe I saw it on Twitter with Venfuki, aka Venruki, aka my boy, with that Windwalker Fist of Fury. He said he unbound it because it was not dealing enough damage. It doesn't stun people anymore, and it was not doing enough damage to ever use, so he just completely unbound the ability. Maybe now he can rebind it. We have a little bit more, 20% more damage coming out from Fist of Fury. Once again, though, without it being a stun, it's going to have to be paired with something maybe like a leg sweep or from a target that's rooted or heavily slowed. So it's going to be very interesting to still get value out of Fist of Fury, but there it is. Slight buff to Windwalker Monks, which I do enjoy. Shadow Priest. So Shadow Priest just were not really doing too hot as far as spread pressure, as far as just the damage. Their damage seemed very low, although the design wasn't too bad, and I do get some flack for that because the PvE Shadow Priest community thinks it's terrible. But in PvP, I actually love Shadow Priest right now, but they're very weak, right? They just need some buffs. And I guess the only change here, Edge of Insanity now properly reduces damage taken when at or above 90 Insanity, 60 Insanity while talented in Legacy of the Void. That's interesting. I actually didn't know they work together like that, so that might actually be a decent talent choice to go into Legacy of the Void and Edge of Insanity. I never really understood that change. However, Edge of Insanity was just bugged, where if you were at or above 90 Insanity, you would take more damage instead of the reduced damage. I actually mentioned this in my Shadow Priest guide about a week ago, so I don't know if Blizzard saw that or if they just already knew about it, but either way, it's fixed, so good job, Blizzard. There we go, fixing that Shadow Priest bug. I would still like to see some Shadow Priest buffs. I think the damage is a little bit low. Let me know if you guys agree with me on that one. I mean, I think the raw pressure should just be bumped up a little bit. That and maybe Affliction Warlocks as well, but we'll have to read the rest of these changes. Rogue! The hot topic of the PvP community recently is Rogue, alright? Assassination specifically, but all 3 specs. So let's take a look. Prey on the Weak increases damage dealt by 5%, was 10%. So that's a pretty big nerf there on Prey of the Weak. I wonder if that's actually going to change talent choices in that row to get the free cheap shot. I think the other one is just a fan of Knives talent, so maybe Prey on the Weak will still be the best, but we'll have to see. Death from Above increases damage done by 10% on the Year of Vis and Venom or Dispatch instead of 15%, which is probably a good change. But yeah, the burst from DFA was incredibly high. Still going to be very high, but a little bit of a nerf might be kind of worth it there. Now, Assassination Rogues fixed a bug that causes Creeping Venom's duration to be refreshed to a longer duration than intended. That's just a bug fix. I like it. Blizzard on top of things. I didn't even know that was a bug. I always say that I love when Blizzard fixes bugs that I never knew were even there, because then that means they were more on top of it than I was, so that's great. Creeping Venom's damage has been reduced by 50%. Alright, so it's a huge nerf to Creeping Venom. I wonder if that's going to change some talent picks there. Not quite sure, because it still gives you incredible value. Deadly Poison deals 20% less damage when engaged in combat, so nerf to Creeping Venom by 50, nerf to Deadly Poison by 20, Vendetta increases damage dealt by 20 instead of 30, so nerf to Vendetta. Toxic Blade increases poison damage dealt by 20, was 30, nerf to Toxic Blade. Garrote deals 20% less damage engaged in combat with enemy players, nerf to Garrote, and then Subterfuge causes Garrote to deal an additional 50% damage when cast from stealth, was 100%, so nerf to Garrote again. Guys, these are some of the biggest nerfs I've seen to a class in a long time. Creeping Venom, Deadly Poison, Vendetta, Toxic Blade, and Garrote all taking the nerf bat at once. Can't say it wasn't necessary, though. Assassination was incredibly overpowered, and even with all these nerfs, I still think it's going to be good. And you might call me crazy, but I still think Assassin is gonna be good even with all these nerfs, because it was better than good before. Alright. But we're going to have to see how that kind of balances the other 2 rogue specs. But before we talk about that, let's look at the changes on them. Outlaw, Plunder Armor reduces the target's max health by 10, was 15. Slight nerf there to Plunder Armor, which was kind of the very scary Outlaw ability. Plunder Armor increases the rogue's max health by 10% once 15. So instead of taking 15, adding 15, it takes 10, adds 10. Maybe a good change. We'll have to see how that plays out. I kind of like Plunder being a nice big one-shot, but at the same time, it still will be, just not to that same extent. So we'll have to see how it plays out. Thickest Thieves increases the damage you and your tricks target deal by 10%. It was 15. So a nice, just a little nerf there as well. So Outlaw nerfs, nothing crazy like Assass, but definitely some slight nerfs there over onto Outlaw. For Subtlety, Shuriken combo increases the vis damage by 3% per stack, was 5% a stack. So people were doing Shuriken combo to get up to an insane increase on a vis, and then getting like 100,000 of vises and one-shotting people. All right, can't do that well, I guess you still can, kinda, but it's 3% a stack instead of 5% a stack. So it's gonna make it a little bit less effective when you're at full stacks with that Shuriken combo. I think it stacks up to 5. Could be wrong on that one. So it's gonna actually be 10% less once you get all of your stacks up. Now, Knight's Vengeance, Azerite trait effectiveness reduced by 66% in PvP situations. So another kind of nerf to one of the traits there. I'm not exactly sure on the Knight's Vengeance trait, but overall slight sub nerfs. And keep in mind, Prey on the Weak and Death from Above are essentially sub nerfs as well. So it's not just these two. So Assass, crazy nerfs. Sub, little bit of nerfs. Outlaw, little bit of nerfs. Going to be interesting on what people begin to choose with their rogue specs, right? Assass might still have the highest single target consistent pressure out of any of the 3 specs, okay? Sub is going to have the most control with those consistent shadow dances and very high burst, but the consistency might not be quite as there. And then Outlaw kind of has a mix of both with okay consistency, and then sometimes incredible control, sometimes not the greatest control, and then sometimes incredible damage, and sometimes not the greatest damage. So Outlaw is kind of a wild card in there that actually is very viable if you play it to its peak, as we've seen from Waz or sometimes from other rogues as well. But we'll have to see kind of what the lock-in spec begins to be. And then Shaman Restoration, the last thing on the list here. Spirit Link now directs 35% of the damage to the team, was 50%. Yeah, okay, so that's a Spirit Link nerf then. So it redirects less damage. And if you guys haven't been playing, Spirit Link has kind of been the meta recently, and I'm really glad they're nerfing that because everyone is just like, screw it, I'll take Spirit Link and run around and never die. So that's slightly nerfed. I hope that'll fix things for now. Spirit Link's mana cost increase, so you won't be able to spam it anymore without going 2 thumbs up, Blizzard. And then Spirit Link reduces the heal generated by Spouting Spirits Azerite trait by 80%. I actually don't know the Spouting Spirits Azerite trait was, but I'm assuming that's why everyone was running Spirit Link, and that got nerfed as well. So triple nerfs to Spirit Link. I hate seeing that talent. It's not Spirit Link Totem, guys, but Spirit Link, which kind of shares the health between all 3 people. It's not very fun to play against in PvP, so I'm really, really glad they nerfed that. Those are all the changes, guys. I'll have them linked down below if you want to check them out. But I try to keep you guys as up to date as possible when it comes to PvP around here. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. If you did not enjoy this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs down. If you like these update videos, let me know down below in the comments. I like to keep you guys up to date on the PvP trends, what's nerfed, what's buffed, what's strong, what's weak, and the metagame and all of that kind of stuff. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.